Welcome back, folks. Today we're going to repot a little jade plant and talk about the care and maintenance of jade and jade bonsai and how you can grow them to be as big and healthy as possible. So we're going to take a look at this guy right here. So let's get in here and pull him out. So we're going to have to do a little bit of rearranging before we can manage this guy out of here. So let's pull him out. All right. There we go. So that's what we got as the front. Let's pull him out and take a closer look. So I actually picked this guy up at a hardware store a few years ago. Just a tiny little cutting of a plant, and now it's grown into a pretty nice little jade, and I really like the way it looks. I'm going to try and train it like a bonsai tree, so I'm going to try and give it like a tree shape. You might have seen a previous video I did on this jade where I kind of profile pruned it and actually cut the leaves themselves in half instead of taking out the individual leaves themselves, and that worked out really well. So I might try that again and see how that looks. But I feel like even though this is what I'm using currently as the front of the tree, I feel like this is actually a good all-around tree. It's got good front to back proportions, so it's pretty well rounded, and it's got a nice little branch coming out the back there. So you can't see as much of the trunk from what I'm calling the back here, but you can see kind of all the way up the trunk here. So what we're gonna do is try and prune this back just a little bit, and we're gonna put it in a new pot. So this pot, you know, it's all right for it, but I want to put it in a kind of a lower pot since this is actually a really top-heavy plant. So this is the pot that I'm going to put it in. It's a little plastic pot, and you can kind of see that it's quite a bit wider and just a tiny little bit shorter. But you know, so it'll maybe have like maybe an inch less deep. But it's a nice little pot. It's pretty decent sized, and it's going to give it a little bit more room for the roots to grow out. Since this is so top heavy, and it really is kind of easy to knock over in this pot, this wide pot, it's going to give a wider platform to sit on, so it's not going to be so prone to tipping over. I might even put a little bit of gravel in the bottom just to put something heavy in there and lower the center of the mass for the tree itself, so it's less likely to tip over. But let's see what we got going on down here. This soil always, I don't know what it is about this plant, but the potting, it's just normal potting soil, and it always just gets rock hard in here. There's some nice little surface roots here. You can see down here a leaf has dropped and it started its own, another little plant there. That actually, yeah. And then down here you can see there's a second little plant. So you can tell that these start really easily from leaf cuttings. Yeah, let's get started on pruning this up. All right, so we got the tree on the bench here, and next thing we want to do is kind of take a look at the tree, see what we want to do with it so we know what we want to prune. So I want to make this look kind of like a miniature tree, so we're going to try and do like a sort of a little bonsai with it. And here, so this is what's the front. You can see the trunk, and it comes up and it keeps going up in here into the thicker part of the canopy, and there's a few side branches, and there's a branch back here that you can't really see that well, but it does sort of fill in a little bit so you can see the foliage at least, so it's not really empty looking down here. That's one thing you'll see with a lot of big jades is they kind of look empty toward the bottom, so I definitely want to hold on to this lower branch and have that add a little bit of depth to the plant. So I'm gonna hold on to that. Now this branch down here, I've kept it on. I'm not sure. I do like the look of it. I'm not sure if it's still kind of fitting with the profile, so we're gonna take a look at that too and see how it goes. So let's jump in here and take a closer look. Okay, so on this lower branch, you can see it's actually running in. This low branch down here actually is starting to interfere with this, so we're gonna have to cut this down a little bit and then maybe try and see if we can, I don't like how laterally that, I would like that to grow maybe up a little bit more. I'd like this one, I think. So this is what we see from the front. And I think I would like that to come kind of up a little bit. So we might try and manipulate that to be a little bit more vertical. So you can see we've got the same thing going on here. This small inner branch is growing up into the main trunk of the tree as well. So we're gonna have to do something with that as well. But the first thing I wanna do is just get a profile prune on this. Last year I did some work on this tree and did a profile prune, and you can't really tell. You can see some of the branches in here where I did the profile prune, but it's actually grown out quite a bit because you can tell there's been quite a bit of growth since that profile prune. You can see another one here. So those grow out pretty well. You can kind of see in here. Oh, there's a leaf. So some of these down here, and they have darker ends on it. I did get potting soil in the wet ends of the cut leaves, but a lot of these, they'll develop a scar and you can actually just remove that scar off there and it just looks like a normal leaf after that. So the profile prune on this worked really well, actually better than I expected. So I'm definitely gonna try that again. So let's try that out. Okay, so the first thing I do want to do is remove some of these branches that are interfering with the trunk here and here before I start the profile prune, because I know those definitely have to go. So I'm just going to come in here. I'm not going to take it all the way off, but I am going to take it down pretty far, just like that, and that would actually make a really nice cutting. So you can see now I've taken it down, so now it's not hitting this trunk right here. It's still pretty close. I probably could take it down a little bit farther, but I'm not gonna do that at this time. Maybe I'll see if anything leafs out on there. So for this one, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna take it down to about there. So you can see this is the one I'm working on. I'm just gonna take it down to about here. So there you can see that's the piece that I took off. And another nice cutting. There's still some leaves that are hitting the trunk, and this one's coming in, so I just wanna clean these up a little bit. All right, so next I'm gonna just move in for this profile prune. I'm having some trouble kind of deciding what I wanna keep here, if I wanna do that. So I am just gonna do the profile prune first here. So let me just take a look as what I want. Profile. So I think I want this to come in some. So what I'd like to do for the profile, I think I am gonna try and pull that one up a little more vertical. I might even try that for this one. But what I'd like to do is, let's say this is the front. I might try and move this one out a little bit so you can see the trunk, because I don't want this branch pointing back. I want it, so I'd like this to be the front. And so I might try and move this one out a little bit. So to keep the profile, I think I'm gonna take this section, have to take this down to about here, and I'll move that in. So once I move this up, see what I mean about it being a little top heavy there. So then I'll have to take this off about to here. I'm also gonna wanna move this up a little bit, so I'll take this off about here, and that'll give me a little bit of that asymmetrical profile. The tips of these right off, just like last time. See, it's got some really nice dense foliage here. That's great. down toward the back here. And up at the top, let's take a little bit off here. Going right up there. And here, I'm not going to take much off on this side. But we do want a nice shape to the canopy to kind of give it the appearance of a large tree. Like you don't see really big trees that have kind of like sectioned off canopies so much. You know, they'll have really, you know, it'll have the tree shape. So, okay, you can see this is where we're at so far. So we tried to get something of a shape here. Now both of these branches I'm going to want to kind of bring in here a little bit tighter, and that'll kind of give us our shape. So now I'm going to go in and do a little bit more detailed branch pruning. All right, so next you can see we got this branch kind of growing up into this part. So I'm going to take this one off just a little bit shorter. So I'm going to come in and just try and clip it off right there. See where that leaves us. So that does open it up a little bit. Now let's take it a little further. Okay, so we got a little progress here. Now I was thinking about wiring this branch out. I think I might just take it out down to like here and see if I can just kind of direct it to start growing that way instead of trying to wire it. Because I know this jade is it's gonna show wire marks really easily if I do try and wire this. All right, so I think that's as far as I'm going to take it. Now I am going to try and figure out a way to bring these up a little bit, just to bring that growth in a little tighter and make it kind of give more of a natural tree shape. I feel like that's just, right now these are kind of going out to the point where they're sort of leveling out flat, and that's not really what I want at this point. I think it would look cooler if these kind of curved in or went straight up just a little bit more. So that's what I'm going to go for. Stay tuned for part 2, folks. We have a lot of good stuff coming up. We are going to move these branches up. We're not going to use a wire, but we're going to try a different method that I've never tried before. And we're also going to try something out to try and minimize the marking on the branches. We're also going to do a repot and get this thing looking good and ready for another summer of great growth. So stay tuned. That's coming right up either today or tomorrow. And I'll see you then.